Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the fourth episode of TechSavvy. Today we are here at Whispering Pines, a beautiful resort in the foothills of Margalla. Well, not in the foothills, right in the midst of Margalla.
On top of it, one.
On top of Margallas actually. And Margalla hills are in the vicinities of Islamabad city, and they are the starting point for the Himalaya range. It's a beautiful place. I think if you're planning to come to Islamabad and Pakistan, do come here. Today I'm joined by some wonderful friends and some captains of the industry. We have Mr. Faisal Amir Malik. To start with, Faisal is the CTO enterprise business for Huawei Middle East. He's currently in Pakistan, and I will hear from him on what sort of ideas and plans and projects that he's working on, and what is Huawei up to these days. And then we have Mr. Nadeem Malik. Mr. Nadeem Malik is Director Enterprise Business with Oracle in Pakistan, and Nadeem has a extensive experience of driving business in the region, across the world, in Pakistan, something that we all look up to and learning from him. So today we'll be discussing of the state of technology, not just globally, but specifically in the region, what these countries are doing, specifically what's happening in the Middle East, what are the opportunities for us, for our companies in Middle East, and how are we going to go about the whole paradigm. So Faisal, starting from you, thank you for joining us.
Most welcome. It's my honor to be here.
What is happening in Middle East, Faisal? We just saw 2 days ago, actually just yesterday, that Dubai has announced that it is going, the entire governance of Dubai is going paperless. We have a lot of friends who are part of this entire process. You are actually on in terms of Huawei and enterprise business, you are leading a lot of efforts there as well in cloud. And tell us what's happening and how they've been able to do this, and how can we try and emulate that.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Sman, for inviting at this wonderful place. And I think I've come to Pakistan after quite some time because of the lockdown and on and off flights getting shut down. So it's an amazing place to be at. First of all, thank you again. There's a lot happening in the Middle East. I will come to the paperless part in the second part of it. We have seen over the last 7, 8 years or 10 years, the governments over there, as the countries and the states and the cities, keeping a lot of focus on digital transformation, first of all, because you have to lay the foundation of all that is the result. That is, you go paperless, you go to AI, you go to a lot of other things, you go to data-driven governance, but you have to lay the foundation in the right way. And we saw when I went there in 2014-15, there was a lot of talk about smart cities, digital transformation in every government department was already taken up, and it was being executed in a very serious way, very focused way. When I say focused, it's in terms of technology, in terms of your direction, and in terms of of course the money that is being put into it, because it's a journey. It's not something like a table or a coffee or a cutlery that you bring into your environment and you start using it. You have to take that journey, and that started right there. And we saw a lot of projects happening around smart cities. A lot of government departments moving to cloud so that they can later on build their data environment, data governance on top of it, because the sharing environment has to be there at the infrastructure layer. And once that was done, now we are at a stage that Dubai is moving to a completely paperless environment, because they can build that kind of coordination between the different departments of the government. Because at the end of the day, when we say paperless, it's not the app that matters, it's the connectivity of all these departments at every single layer, in terms of data exchange, in terms of their policies, in terms of how would they coordinate with each other, in terms of processes and transformation of processes matter. So it's a journey. So they have taken that journey, and they've come to a point there where they can go out and announce this wonderful initiative, which is, I think, amazing. And on the other hand, the smart cities still are happening. For example, for Dubai, when we talk about Dubai, we say that, and different cities are at different layer or level. We internally sometimes when we are talking about smart cities, we say it's wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Wave 1 are cities in the region which are still building their basic infrastructure. We are seeing NEOM is coming up, and it has to go through that initial infrastructure build up and then go to wave second part where they will have the infrastructure, they will start building services on top of it. When we talk about smart parking, smart waste management, safe city, and other things which are benefiting the citizens, tangible benefits coming out of it. Third wave is where, for example, Dubai and certain other cities are there in the region, primarily Dubai and even Abu Dhabi, where you call it, they're at innovation layer, that they have everything done on the smart layer, and I say they're moving to become intelligent cities. They now are using technologies like they will be using data in the right sense. It's not just lying there or being collected. It is being put into some purpose to again make life easier for people. Second is they are building AI use cases on top of it. Third is they are also massively rolling out 5G as well. And we are talking to industry, a lot of industry, transportation, health, governance, and all of that, how to build use cases of 5G to utilize it in the right way. So this is in very small, brief summary what is exactly is happening in the region around us.
Great. We earlier saw that they were moving towards things like Citizens Happiness Index, and they implemented it. It looked very hard initially to when you said कि what would happen अगर आपके इलाके में पानी नहीं आ रहा, and how would the rulers of the city would find out about it. But they somehow implemented it. They put that onto a dashboard. They were able to monitor, and that, I think, that built the layer where a lot of these utility companies, a lot of government companies started connecting. They started towards a tangible KPI which they were started monitoring, and once that happened, they moved towards then connected transactions as well. I think that's a great learning curve for us as well. We tend to be very secretive about our data even between government departments of the government, and I think we have to start opening up to each other a lot more. Nadeem Saab, you've been selling into the government, and you're not just selling, you are actually setting up those trends, and you're witnessing those trends, what's happening globally, what's happening in the region, and then you're trying to tell us and how and how should we be moving towards this, and we are strategizing based on those ideas. Now, you tell us from Pakistan's perspective, where do you see us, and how much do we have to progress to get to start matching what's happening in our region?
Thank you very much, Usman, for having me here today. Such a fabulous and fantastic setting. I appreciate to be here. It's certainly an honor and privileged. Like Faisal said, Pakistan has, unlike the Middle East, Pakistan is more diversified, more autonomous kind of government structure. So in that structure, we have our own challenges and our own opportunities. What I have seen it over the years is at least one thing which is very positive is there's no more resistance of being in automation. Everybody realize it. This is a way forward. This is to go forward. I think that's something I remember the early days. The most of the effort was that convincing them that automation is the way forward. It brings transparencies, it brings efficiencies, it helps the citizen services, or what other services they're offering to interdepartment or to the government as well. I think that part is over. Now everybody's more excited, they're looking towards it. Now question comes at what automation? And where do we start, or where do we go towards it? I think that's one thing, most of the things, discussion is happening, which is very positive. The second very positive thing is our current governments and our Prime Minister's Imran Khan's vision coming into it, that technology, IT, communication is a way forward. That is the major pillar of a progress. Whether it's an export market, whether it's an import market, internal services. I think that vision has also filtered down or trickled down, cascaded to multi-department, and I see a lot of change in Ministry of IT. Through the task force, I think one of the I think we are the most powerful voice in the government. And I appreciate PSAP to Ignite, to Ministry of IT, bringing those policies and removing those obstacles of the growth. I think these are the very things. Now, where the challenges comes into it, the number one definitely challenges come to it is the funding part. The second part comes into it where we got each department, right, like you said, we don't have this open data policies coming into place. We understand the future is cloud. We understand the future of artificial intelligence. We understand how innovation will be done in our ecosystem. And despite all these obstacles, we see the growth in IT market. We see the numbers. We see the number in our startup ecosystem. We see the more and more solutions are being developed indigenously, locally. So having said that, I think we are on the right path. We may not be progressing as fast as our region is, but at least we are not a step behind. We are following the footprints. I think what we need to do is cohesive approach within organization in a larger scale. I think that's larger government architectural point of view is need to bring it into it. So people with not isolated efforts should not be isolated. Once they're united towards one certain angle, a certain approach where they want to go towards, maybe like giving a simple example towards it, when we talk about citizen services, I see some departments are far ahead of other departments. And some department dependency is on other department. Whether this is FBR, whether this is Nadra, whether this is a railway, whether this is a post office, I think we need to have at a government larger scale architectural issues where we can consolidate. I think that's where the better approach is. I think that's where I think everybody's effort is. That's where our efforts are. Readiness point of view is certainly, I think, it's not a mindset only the challenge with an organization to change, but sometimes it's a process, procedures, and regulatory environment. And good to say that people are acknowledging it. It may not be solved in one single day, but at least the path towards is being paved.
Now, the one thing that we are seeing, and you rightly mentioned it, do you think, just like Dubai, when they started this journey, they created an office, the Smart Dubai office. The Smart Dubai office took ownership of the process, took ownership of the procedure, took ownership of what do they actually require from each of the government offices, and and where do they want the intervention, how do they want the process simplified. Do you think there should be a similar process here in Pakistan, where we should have identified a single entity, and that single entity's job is to tell everybody on how to do it, what do they expect out of them, what sort of technology do they want. Even if the local, the individual department go in and do their own tenders, they should be given that guideline from that one body or two bodies in the country. And I think NITB and NTC together are in a great shape and form to actually take this forward, where they can become the owners of the process, where NTC can become the de facto connectivity partner, which would provide connectivity to NITB's project, and NITB should be driving this. Nadeep, what do you think in our case, what should be the process?
Very interesting. I think this has been debated within an industry and within different stakeholders. One thing is a department who can manage this center point, and the second part is that center point should execute the same thing.
Right.
I think that we have to look in two separate ways. So execution body, it should not be the body who's envisioning and controlling it.
Right.
I think they should be detached. They should not be one person or one department say, I'm the one who's going to regulate how this whole tendering is done, how this whole interconnectivity is being or collaboration is being done, and then I'm the one who will execute it. That really kills a lot of industry growth. Right. And I think that's the same point of view coming from Pasha and other industry bodies as well. Now, how do you involve actual player into it? NTC is one player, PTC is another one, Jazz another one, Zong is another one. So we have multiple player in the field. I think we should give them a fair play so they can collaborate, incorporate, and they can participate in as well. So I think there's a model available. If you look at a regional growth model, whether it's in Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, we have seen it. They have a central CIO office, and the CIO office is envisioned where the government services will be consolidated. We heard Pakistan single window, Pakistan single portal, but that does not solve the problem. The problem is how they integrated and still servicing their customers. So that office of CIO office has a tentacle with every other department, but they are not the executing body.
Correct.
So executing body should be our industry. We should involve our players. We should involve with private and public entities both into part. But I think this should be separately viewed.
फैसल रीजन के अंदर किस तरह से गवटेक में ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हो रही है, किस तरह से स्मार्ट सिटीज़ के अंदर आप बात कर रहे हैं, उसके अंदर क्या चीज़ें हैं जिससे हमारी कंपनीज जिसको फ़ायदा उठा सकेंगी, वो क्या पोटेंशियल्स हैं जो हमें एक्सप्लोर करने चाहिए. तो गिव मी सम आइडियाज़ ऑन देयर.
ओके, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो मैं आने से पहले वो एक बड़ी अच्छी न्यूज़ देख रहा था कि आई थिंक Fly Dubai is coming to Skardu. So
yes.
Again, it's a very second. Why I'm saying that is because आपने recently you must have noticed that Middle East is becoming a focal point of a lot of global activity.
True.
And the region is open right now. It's the whole world is coming for Expo 2020, and it's a very important platform for us from where we can also project ourselves even. We can project ourselves further and wider and very easily because we are sitting nearest to them. So first of all, एक तो वो platform है important, हमें उसको utilize करना चाहिए. Second, it's also there are a lot of things happening there which are happening a bit before than where we are today. तो वो हमारे लिए एक benchmark ना सही but एक guideline बन जाता है, lighthouse बन जाता है. Okay, this is how we can do as well. Maybe the scale is different. But third thing is it's a opportunity place for us as well because there's a lot of activity, like you said, happening there in terms of smart cities, smart governance. There will be a lot of new use cases coming up. I was talking about 5G, and a lot of ecosystem development over there. The companies, because all companies are there, global companies are there. When we are sitting there, our priority is not only the technology. Our priority is to build the ecosystem.
Right.
For example, if I am building a smart hospital with any government entity, and I am planning to build a IoT use case on a Wi-Fi 6, like we are doing in some projects, we are converting a whole hospital, we are finishing the IoT network and we are putting everything on Wi-Fi 6. So we are utilizing our own Wi-Fi 6, of course, but we are also utilizing the services of a software dashboard company.
Okay.
And that would connect everything together and we would go and build the use case. Now that software dashboard company can come from here.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
And
That small module can be
yes,
built here.
it's a software dashboard.
Yeah.
And it has to integrate with the IoT, it's any AP and maybe those bands or asset management devices or hardware. It's very doable and easy thing to do. Second thing is when we go into 5G use cases, again, in 5G, there's very important role of the customer's business problem that will be solved by that use case. The operator that is there already, they are leading when it comes to 5G. But the third part is the problem solver will be the software layer on the top.
Correct.
That what do you exactly want to do? For example, we are working on use cases where we are monitoring high tension wire lines using a drone camera and a 5G network. For example, we are working on a use case where we are trying to identify flame of oil refinery or anything, and we are trying to identify what exactly is happening with the process inside. So a lot of use cases are coming up. Now all these use cases need ecosystem. It does not only need one player or two player. Everybody understands there that the ecosystem has to work. All stakeholders have to work together. So we can be an important player in that whole ecosystem. Our companies here, they can use that platform to be that player in that ecosystem. And once you are part of a use case there, you can project yourself globally as well.
Now, how do you think we should partner? What is the route method that we should take? Who should we go and partner? हमारी company एक छोटी company है.
Very good question.
You know, $7-8 lakh करती है.
You cannot just go there and start marketing.
Exactly, right? तो वो उसके पास ना इतनी bandwidth होती है, ना इतने पैसे होते हैं.
True.
ना वो vision होता है, उसके समझ में नहीं आता कि जी हम कहाँ से शुरू करें, क्या करें उसके लिए कि वो partnerships develop.
Very important question. इसमें I meet a lot of companies who ask us कि हम आपके साथ कैसे collaborate कर सकते हैं. और वो काफ़ी इंडस्ट्री में जब move around कर रहे होते हैं, वो आते हैं, वहाँ ऑफिस सेटअप करते हैं and they build a sales team, kind of get lost as well sometimes, क्योंकि उनको right door नहीं मिल रहा होता to enter. Sometimes they are approaching the end customer as well, but end customer is not implementing those technologies on their own.
Right.
They are again working with some technology partners like us, Oracle or anybody else to do that. तो हमारे, for example, I'll talk about our example. So we have our open lab. Just to give you an example, the open lab would collaborate with any ecosystem partner. It can be a startup. In certain use cases, we even work with some very wonderful startup companies from Pakistan.
Right.
And we were working on a problem solving, and we worked together to build the complete use case out of it. So every big company or technology company which is working there, they have this kind of platforms. So we should train our companies here when they go out to find these platforms and collaborate with them, rather than finding the end user who is again working with the ecosystem to solve the problem. So ये जो पूरा ecosystem, how this ecosystem is working in the region, इसकी education देना is important to our companies here, and so that they can go and find their opportunities faster and easier and more effective.
तजीब भाई, आपकी बड़ी नज़र है, मतलब एंटरप्राइज सेलिंग का एक मेथडोलॉजी होती है, उस मेथडोलॉजी के अंदर पार्टनर्स होते हैं, रीसेलर्स होते हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स होते हैं, फिर एंड कस्टमर होता है, फिर आपका जैसे फैसल ने कहा कि इकोसिस्टम होता है. हमारी बहुत सी कंपनीज़, मैं अंदाज़ा कर सकता हूँ कि वो सिर्फ एज ए डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर तो आपके साथ काम करने को बहुत से लोग होंगे, सिस्टम इंटीग्रेटर भी बहुत से लोग होंगे, but how many people do you see approaching you from Pakistan to become part of your ecosystem as a developer? To become to say कि जी ये हमने ओपन API पे फला काम कर लिया है और ये आपके फला जो है वो डेटा लेक के साथ इंटीग्रेट कर जाएगा, इससे हम ये चीज़ ड्राइव करेंगे, इसकी ये यूज़ केस है. How many people do actually come to you, and what is the opportunity for such people? If somebody likes to approach you, how open would you be, or a company like yours would be, like Oracle would be, कि हम इनको किस तरह से इंटीग्रेट करें?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Oracle definitely is looking towards more and more ecosystems. Oracle के अपना solutions हैं और अपने platforms हैं. We are a data company. So we are the world's largest data company. So we believe the data is the one next to oil, the more precious resources. But having said that, not everything is developed by an Oracle as well. The multi-vertical solutions हमारे पास भी हैं. लेकिन हमारा एक program जिसे हम कहते हैं ISV program. The people who have developed their application based upon Oracle technologies, whether they're using Oracle Cloud, whether you're using Oracle technologies, specifically now everybody's in the cloud. So we are offering this ISV programs to our the partners and people who develop some applications. So what we did do is when they develop this solution based upon Oracle technology stack, they are part of our ISV ecosystem. They go to our global catalog mechanism, catalog based. So when we know, so I have solved a problem which is a localized issue, say in payroll and HR, or they customize some component towards it. So ISV is one of the very vital part of our ecosystem, because they're only using a platform, but they are solving localized problem or the regional problems, and they become part of our catalogs. In catalogs, the user or consumer comes in and they choose and they buy their services. I think that is where we believe the more people who are developing applications, specifically the startups. So our startup ecosystem is easy to start now, because 20 years ago was not a startup because everybody has to invest. Now, 4 kids having a cup of coffee have a brilliant idea, need a zero kind of dollar amount with them, and they can be they could be a big $5 million company. I think that's what we encouraging. That's why we are approaching it. We have a dedicated people with Oracle today who are specifically looking towards ISV market space.
सर, जैसे नदीम साहब ने फैसल बात की भी थोड़ी देर पहले ISVs की, और एक छोटी सी हमें हिंट दी कि हमारी कंपनीज किस तरह से ISV पार्टनर्स बन सकती हैं ऑफ Oracle एंड अदर कंपनीज लाइक योरसेल्व्स. सैंडबॉक्स पार्टनर्स बन सकते हैं, साथ मिलकर काम कर सकते हैं, छोटे छोटे प्रोडक्ट्स लेके जा सकते हैं, मॉड्यूल्स को, और फिर वहाँ से उस अकाउंट के अंदर फिर अपने आप को एक्सपेंड कर सकते हैं. सो अब हम जो क्वेश्चन ये कर रहे थे कि जी मार्केटिंग का तरीका क्या होना चाहिए, हमने किस तरह से कस्टमर को, इकोसिस्टम पार्टनर्स को किस तरह से हमने अप्रोच करना है, और हमारे उसके अंदर हमारे KPIs क्या होने चाहिए, हमारे इनपुट्स क्या होने चाहिए, और हम कैसे कह सकेंगे कि जी हमने अगर मार्केटिंग करने जाना है एक छोटी कंपनी जिसके 25 एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं, $8 लाख साल के करती है, उस कंपनी को ये कह देना बड़ा आसान है कि जी आप जाएं दुबई में जाके मार्केट करें, बट यू नो इट्स अ बिट चैलेंजिंग फॉर देम। अगर मैं फ्रॉम एन एंटरप्राइज एंगल अगर मैं ये सवाल तुमसे करूँ कि जी हाउ वुड व्हाट इफ़ यू कैन गिव मी 3 और 4 स्टेप्स के अंदर मुझे बता सकें कि मैं एक छोटी कंपनी को किस तरह से दुबई भेजूँ, किस तरह से उसकी पार्टनरशिप्स कराऊँ, किस तरह से उसको आइडेंटिफाई कराऊँ प्रोजेक्ट्स, कैन यू गाइड अस ऑन दैट अ बिट?
ठीक है, आई थिंक इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट। मेरे ख्याल में जो मेरे अपने नॉलेज एंड एक्सपीरियंस से वहाँ बैठ के है, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल किसी भी मार्केटिंग एक्टिविटी, कैंपेन या एफर्ट के पीछे थोड़ा बहुत, बल्कि वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा रिसर्च होना चाहिए कि आप ग्राउंड वर्क कर लें कि वो वॉट एवर एक्सपीरियंस, लाइक नदीम वाज सेइंग, what experience you are producing here, products you are producing here, and skill set which has market there. तब आप marketing करेंगे, number one. Number two, आप if so many other countries and people and organizations or software houses from other countries are bringing the same product, skill sets and all, आपकी अपनी भी कोई USP होगी,
सही,
वो भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि यूनिक सेलिंग पॉइंट हमारा क्या है। और वो काफ़ी सारे हैं, वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट सम ऑफ देम एज वेल। हमारा एक्सपीरियंस इन लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, पहले तो वो हो गया, आपने आइडेंटिफाई किया, रिसर्च की। सेकेंड इज़ आपकी अपनी USPs क्या हैं। थर्ड इज़ इनिशियली आपने बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात बोली कि नॉट एवरीबडी कैन गो देयर एंड स्टार्ट डूइंग इवेंट्स ऑन देयर ओन, स्टार्ट मीटिंग कस्टमर्स ऑन देयर ओन। सो एक प्लेटफॉर्म भी देना ज़रूरी है यहाँ से, फ्रॉम हेयर। I think that platform can come, like I saw you guys doing some wonderful activity during GITEX. That event was a amazing platform to bring in all those people there and let them know this is how it is done, and that was just the beginning. So maybe initial platform has to come from organizations like yourself through a little bit of hand holding. That was overall event. But then you can go more focused. You can go maybe to Saudi Arabia as well, where there's a lot of digital transformation activity is happening, and lot more to come. And and you can be in Middle East to cover a lot of other markets as well, North African market, the Middle East market itself from Dubai, and other parts of the Middle East as well. So what we have to take there is important. What is our market and the platform initially? To give to all these organizations who cannot go and do it there is important. And somehow maybe they are aware of some markets, but they cannot go and access those customers as well. तो वहाँ पर भी you need to have some kind of hand holding or support to them, so they उनकी reach हो वहाँ पर। And third is also because a lot of companies like us and Oracle and others who are present here as well, we can also create these kind of collaborations. Like we have an open lab in Dubai. So as I said earlier, a lot of ISVs or a lot of startups, they were coming here and they are still, and they were very welcome to join us there. All other companies have these kind of arrangements. तो वो arrangements आप connect भी कर सकते हैं यहाँ से, और जहाँ वहाँ पर massive events भी होती हैं, उनमें our participation should be more. Not every event initially may give you an ROI, but they will start giving you ROIs. For example, GITEX is a very big platform. और वहाँ पर इस दफ़ा हमारी प्रेजेंस अच्छी थी, एंड एक्सपो में भी हमारी प्रेजेंस है, विच इज़ गिविंग अस सम फ्रूट, अब माइलेज दे रही है हमको, तो वो ज़रूरी है। इनिशियली मे बी आपका उसका ROI वैसा ना हो जैसा आप एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं, बट इट विल स्टार्ट गेटिंग बेटर, बिकॉज इनिशियली मे बी यू आर नॉट अवेयर how to take the best ROI of that activity. True. We ourselves have to get aware first as well. Correct. So I think these are few things. Later I think Nadeem साहब also.
नदीम साहब, आपका क्या ख्याल है, जैसे हम यही बात कर रहे थे अभी, हम ऑफलाइन थे, हम लोग ये डिस्कशन कर रहे थे कि मार्केटिंग करने के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी ये है कि आपके पास कुछ हो जिसको आप मार्केट कर रहे हैं। वो क्या है हमारे पास जिसको हम मार्केट कर सकते हैं? हम कुछ चीज़ें जाके उनको बताना चाह रहे हैं, उनसे इम्प्रेस करना चाह रहे हैं कि जी हमने ये किया हुआ है। What do you think from a government G2G perspective? Let's start from a G2G perspective.
देखिए, मार्केट के जो दो तीन फंडामेंटल्स हैं। पहला फंडामेंटल है कि आप किसको मार्केट कर रहे हैं। मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स हमारी मार्केटिंग का जो फोकस पॉइंट है वो नहीं होता जिसको हमें करना चाहिए। इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि इंटरनली आप देखें हम किसको मार्केट करना चाह रहे हैं। फिर दूसरा जो फंडामेंटल फ्लॉ होता है कि हम उसको वो बताना चाहते हैं जो हम समझते हैं कि उसको बताना चाहिए। जबकि ये बताना चाहिए कि उसको किस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है. आई थिंक वी नीड टू आइडेंटिफाई द नीड ऑफ द पर्सन हु इज अंडर रेसिपिएंट ऑन द अदर एंड. सो लेट मी जस्ट जो एग्जांपल मैं पहले दे रहा था कि सऊदीज हैव दिस 2030 इनिशिएटिव्स, ग्रीन इनिशिएटिव्स. अब सऊदी 2030 ग्रीन इनिशिएटिव है. अब उसको तो वो ग्रीन, दे वांट टू बिकम अ ग्रीन, एंड पाकिस्तान हैज़ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट I think successful story of the $1 billion tree. Billion tree or $1 billion trees. And अब अगर आप बैकग्राउंड पे देखें तो मे बी ये शायद एरिया पहले बैरन था, यहाँ से कटिंग बहुत थी और बैरन हो रहा था, तो गवर्नमेंट ने इनिशिएटिव दैट. उसमें बहुत सी लर्निंग है, बहुत सी हमारी लर्निंग्स है, वो हम जाके राइट ऑडियंस को बता सकते हैं कि दिस इज़ आवर strength and this is our we can do and this is where we can help you out. That's a collaboration base. सेम थिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ है. हमारी मिड टीयर की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जब जाती हैं तो दे डायरेक्टली ट्राई टू अप्रोच द एंड कस्टमर जो उनकी प्रोडक्ट का है. मोस्ट ऑफ दैम दोज बायर्स हैव कंप्लीट इकोसिस्टम इन मिडल. उनका कोई बड़ा पार्टनर होगा, उनका कोई डेवलपमेंट पार्टनर होगा. आई थिंक मे बी वी कैन स्टार्ट समवेयर ऑन दैट सप्लाई चेन इकोसिस्टम वेयर वी कैन फिट इनटू द वर्ड्स इट. पाकिस्तानी कंपनीज में बहुत एडवांटेज हैं शायद जो दूसरी यूरोपियन सॉल्यूशंस में समटाइम या डेवलप सॉल्यूशंस में नहीं आते, कि उनकी कस्टमाइजेशन कॉस्ट बहुत हाई होती है. When the solution comes to the customer, they say, okay, I would like to have a customization done, and how flexible you are. I think we could be our company could be the most flexible in the solutions and all those the offerings towards it. I think we need to highlight how we can be more facilitating to them, how we can understand their pain points much better, and I think right audience identification both important. This is common mistake. And then I think very important part is marketing is not in meal pieces. Market is a continuous journey. Give me an example of McDonald's. बच्चा मामा के बाद दूसरा लफ्ज़ McDonald's सीखता है, right? I think,
First
but
favorite destination.
absolutely. So I think that's what the marketing, because McDonald's, if you look at it, such a brand does not need a marketing, but they market every single day. It's a continuous thing, repeating over and over. What uniqueness value you bring it, what flexibility you can, how you can help the need, how you solve their problems, where we are today, and how we can become a partner to your journey. I'm not going to sell a product and run away. And that is, I think, the key towards it. Most organization जब जाती हैं, जो अपने जाइटेक्स है, पाकिस्तान का पवेलियन लगा हुआ है, it's a continuous for next 6 months or year platform where we can go highlight what kind of advantages our companies has. And let me tell you very honestly, from my own heart, we have a tremendous talent, tremendous innovation, tremendous solutions if we are rightly placed in the right audience.
सही. नहीं, ये अच्छा, ये चैलेंज हमें उमूमन आता है कि जब वो हम पाकिस्तान की बात करते हैं और पाकिस्तान के प्रेजेंस की बात करते हैं इनटू दीज एरिया, वो उमूमन काफ़ी वीक होती है. और ये इसमें बहुत से जो बहुत सा फ्लैक है वो हमारे अपने एग्जीक्यूशंस प्रोसेसेस का भी है. We are trying to get this better, and now I'm talking more of what I am facing issues. तो उसमें हम कोशिश ये कर रहे हैं कि अगर हम पाकिस्तान को कहीं पे भी प्रेजेंट करें तो हम फ्रंट एंड सेंटर हमारा पवेलियन होना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो डिससर्विस हो जाती है टू द कंट्री अगर आपने पीछे एक छोटा सा आपने कॉर्नर में लगाया हुआ. इट एक्चुअली इज़ अ बैड मार्केटिंग, नेगेटिव मार्केटिंग, जो हमारा पोटेंशियल है उसके साथ. सो वी आर वर्किंग टूवर्ड्स दैट कि जी हम पूरे साल के या 2 साल के कैलेंडर्स हम डिवाइस कर लें. अब कोविड के अंदर थोड़ा सा हमें चैलेंज ये आ रहा है कि द इवेंट्स आर ऑन एंड ऑफ, आर कैंसलिंग एंड हैपनिंग, बट व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू डू कि 8 to 9 मंथ्स का कैलेंडर हम डिवाइस कर लें, उसकी हम बुकिंग्स कर लें, उसके ऊपर हम काम करें. तो आइडिया व्हाट वी, बट एज गवर्नमेंट वी कैन ओनली डू दिस मच. नाउ अब हमने जगह ले ली है, जगह प्रोमिनेंट है, खूबसूरत है, कंपनीज़ को बूथ दे दिए, ना कंपनीज़ आर देयर. And now I kept on telling the companies, how this is now your job, that you are there, you should be moving around here and there, you're zipping around here and there, you be talking to people, you be asking them, आप क्या problem solve करते हैं. अच्छा, आपके पास लिखा हुआ आप फलां कंपनी के पार्टनर हैं, आप Oracle के पार्टनर हैं, क्या देते हैं Oracle को आप, और क्या आपकी बात चल रही है, देखें हम HR का मॉड्यूल है, ये कैसे इंटीग्रेट हो सकता है. सो ये सारी कन्वर्सेशन जो है ना, ये इंडस्ट्री के एंड पे काफ़ी ज़रूरी हैं, जो लोग नहीं करते हैं. Coming back to the topic कि अब जो इन्वायरमेंट आप इन मुल्कों में देख रहे हैं, नदीम साहब, आपका काफ़ी फोकस रहा है APAC रीजन के ऊपर भी, US में भी आपका काफ़ी काम रहा, पाकिस्तान को भी आप देखते रहें. क्या चीज़ है, अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ कि अगर हमें 2030 में हमें पेपरलेस चला जाना चाहिए, हमारे पॉलिसीज़ हमारी बेस्ट, हमें पाकिस्तान को हब बनाना चाहिए, जैसे वी से टेक डेस्टिनेशन पाकिस्तान, what do you think if, let's say if I take you to 2030 and I say कि जी नदीम साहब हमने 2030 में हमने वो अचीव कर लिया जो हम चाहते थे 2020-21 में बैठ के 22 में बैठ के जब हम गुफ्तगू करें तो हमने 2030 में अचीव कर लिया एंड आई टेल यू टू लुक बैक एंड टेल मी कि आपने वो क्या क्या कुछ किया है फ्रॉम एन आइडियलिस्ट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. अच्छा मैं जानबूझ के सवाल आप दोनों से इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ कि फ्रॉम इनसाइड आउट हम जब देखते हैं तो हम चैलेंजेस देखते हैं, फ्रॉम आउटसाइड इन जब आप लोग देखते हैं तो आप अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ देखते हैं. तो फ्रॉम एन अपॉर्चुनिटी फ्रॉम अ पोटेंशियल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ एक आइडियल वर्ल्ड में आप बताएं 2030 में हमने सब कुछ अचीव कर लिया है और आप पीछे लुक बैक कर रहे हैं, आप कह रहे हैं हमने ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व की थी तो 2030 में हम यहाँ बैठे. फ्रॉम दैट एक छोटी सी एक्सरसाइज इफ़ आई आस्क यू वो क्या होगी?
आई थिंक अगर मैं समझूँ कि 2030 में हम जो ड्रीम कर रहे हैं कि पाकिस्तान टेक डेस्टिनेशन होगा, उसमें क्या अचीव कर लिया. तो पहले नंबर पे हमारी रूल्स रेगुलेशंस लॉ एंड रेगुलेटरी एनवायरनमेंट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है इस सब को कंडूसिव करने का. समबडी आस्क्ड मी क्वेश्चन कि पाकिस्तान में बहुत से डेवलपमेंट सेंटर्स नहीं आते या पाकिस्तान में बहुत सा आईपी डेवलप नहीं हो रहा. उसकी वजह टैलेंट नहीं है, हमारे पर टैलेंट अवेलेबल है. हम हमेशा अपनी एजुकेशन स्टैंडर्ड को शायद क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं, उसकी अपनी इनहेरिटेड प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, लेकिन इसके बावजूद वी हैव अ ट्रेमेंडस टैलेंट इन आवर यूथ. उसकी वजह वो रिस्क मिटिगेशन है, एब्सेंस ऑफ आईपी लॉज, आर्बिट्रेशन लॉज जो हमारे ऑब्सोलीट हैं. That's one thing we need to remove.
So doing business के जो से जो related issues हैं.
I think now we have one of the best person in a BOI chairman Azhar. I hope that I will be able to resolve many of those issues. That's one part. The second part, I think we need to develop a part of the journey कि where we are going tomorrow. I mean, 2030 में मैं देख रहा हूँ कि what exactly we envision towards it. I think that envisioning is what global supply chain passes through Pakistan. If that path stops, global business stops. I think I want to be a vital part of that global supply chain. चाहे वो talent में है, development में है, चाहे वो product development में है. I think that's what I need to create some niche in my part. I think that niche could be creating a mathematical models from our, we should have such as data scientists, or we should have a people who are so skilled in AI, people who are so skilled in developing new processors or whatever the gaming industry में हम बहुत बड़े हैं या हम किसी और चीज़ में बड़े. I think that's what we need to find one niche towards. I think that's very important towards, because otherwise we are spread too thin.
Absolutely.
You're spreading too thin, you don't create that, you don't become a part of the global supply chain. अगर सिर्फ मैं कहता हूँ एक बटन भी मोबाइल का हमारे हाथ से गुजर के जाता है और सिर्फ हम बनाते हैं, आई थिंक वी आर अचीव सम टारगेट. दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट कि हम किस फोकस पॉइंट पे हमें वो ढूंढना है. वो अब देखिए वी ऑल कलेक्टिव माइंड्स वी कैन डू इट. दिस इज़ व्हाट हैपन इन एवरी अदर कंट्री. अगर आप वियतनाम की आज इंडस्ट्री बंद करते हैं शायद आपको कल जॉगर नहीं मिलेगा.
सही.
So this is, I think we need to work on that. I think that's what I look back at. This is we understand. This is our. When we talk about youth, I think we only talk about it, and we only consider a very small segment of the youth कि जी वो higher education या quality education लेके आएगा तो वो कोई dollar deliver कर सकता है. What is about other one? I think there are models available worldwide जिन्होंने उस youth को जो कि नीचे widespread थी consolidate किया, and then they start working towards upward towards it. I think that we need to consolidation part बड़ी important है. उसमें कहाँ करना है, I think that's something I cannot answer it, to be very honest, but I think collectively we can find that way.
How much role do you think taxation plays into it, and the right mechanisms, the right structuring of taxation, that we just don't collect revenue, just it goes towards building something and it becomes a advantageous point to rather than becoming just a revenue collection activity.
I think उसमें बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है. मैं अब टैक्स कंसल्टेंट तो नहीं, लेकिन कॉमन सेंस की बात यह है कि टैक्स अथॉरिटीज़ देखती हैं कि अगर आप 500 आदमियों की कंपनी है तो यू शुड बी पेइंग दिस मच टैक्स. आईटी के अंदर अगर आप इस रीजन को देखें, एक बहुत बड़ा सेगमेंट जो सा है वो कैप्टिव मॉडल में है, क्योंकि वो सिर्फ कास्ट सेंटर है, वो प्रॉफिट नहीं कमा रहा. अब अगर आप मैं इंडिया की एग्जांपल देता हूँ, मल्टीनेशनल्स के जो अकाउंटिंग और पे रोल्स हैं वो इंडिया में हैं. वो सारे कंप्यूटर साइंस ग्रेजुएट नहीं हैं, but they are managing their payrolls, taxation, and everything, expenses. But वो cost centers हैं, but they are employing thousands of employees.
I was looking at Accenture having 1,80,000
Absolutely.
employee in India.
हमारे यहाँ वो कंपनीज कास्ट सेंटर के तौर पे टैक्सेशन अथॉरिटी नहीं देखती. वो कहते हैं कि आप 500 people company, you must be generating some kind of revenue and exiting from Pakistan. Otherwise they are not. They only bring in the money to manage the cost center. They don't see the number of employees they hired. And secondary economy develop कर रही है.
True. और मतलब 500 लोगों का payroll tax is not bad.
Small, but आप देखेंगे यूएस के अपने मुझे का एग्जांपल दी तो यूएस कंपनी में जब कोई कार मैन्युफैक्चरर किसी टाउन में जाता था तो टाउन बेसिकली गिव देम लॉट ऑफ फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, लैंड, टैक्सेशन, एवरीथिंग. They are not interested in car वहाँ sell होगी कि नहीं होगी. Car would probably sell somewhere else, or maybe the part will go somewhere else. But that generate the whole secondary economy जहाँ वो rent भी होगा, वहाँ कोई shopping भी करेगा, वो वहाँ कोई दुकान भी खोलेगी. I think that's what they see it, and our tax authority don't see that. We encourage a multinational to bring their sports center, maybe वो low skill हैं, या mid skill हैं, या high skill हैं, as a tax as a cost center. And the cost center will only can one who can bring 10-15,000 plus employees.
True. फैसल हम मेरा तुम्हारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से काफ़ी वास्ता रहा है. You are now selling Huawei's cloud all over the region. What I see, there is an opportunity for Pakistan. जैसे हम कहते हैं हम opportunities identify करते हैं. What can we become? What I see as an opportunity in Pakistan, that like पाकिस्तान से ऊपर देखो, पाकिस्तान से ऊपर चले जाओ रशियन नॉर्दर्न मोस्ट बॉर्डर तक, देयर इज़ नो क्लाउड नोड. पाकिस्तान से नॉर्थ ईस्ट चले जाओ यूनान प्रोविंस तक, देयर इज़ नो क्लाउड नोड. पाकिस्तान से नॉर्थ वेस्ट चले जाओ रोमेनिया तक, देयर इज़ नो क्लाउड नोड, राइट, और नॉट अ सिग्निफिकेंट क्लाउड नोड. ना पाकिस्तान को देखो, पाकिस्तान कनेक्ट कर रहे हैं छः अंडर सी केबल्स. हमारे मेरे ख्याल से मुल्क के अंदर नॉर्थ साउथ ईस्ट वेस्ट 8 केबल्स हमारे मुल्क के अंदर चल रहे हैं, जिस पे हम 5 पे शायद DWDM चला रहे हैं, और हमारे यहाँ से एक केबल कनेक्ट होके चाइना कनेक्ट कर रहा है. अब मैं अगर कराची से उस एक केबल पे जो है अगर मैं डिले देखता हूँ तो समवेयर अराउंड 92 मिलीसेकंड्स. इन कंपैरिजन अगर मैं उस केबल के अलावा पिंग करता हूँ शंघाई को कराची से या इस्लामाबाद से, सो माई पिंग डिले समवेयर अराउंड 390 milliseconds, right? So I think what we can become is the North Hemisphere and South Hemisphere connecting point, or the plug, which can actually, where we can become a cloud hub in the region, and we can provide connectivity to all the Central Asian region. We can reduce the delay between, let's say, pinging between Kenya and Tashkent. We can reduce the ping delay between South Africa and Moscow. So we can become this under the, let's say, the umbrella of SCO. We can initiate that activity. What do you think would be the potential of targeting towards something like that, and not just as cloud as infrastructure, but once we have the cloud as infrastructure, we can then use the population that we have to provide services of lift and shift, digital transformation for the entire region. What's your views on that?
I think I'll pick one point which Mr. Nadeem Saab said is very important, that it's not only about one technology, as you, and sometimes we also discuss on different forums, and मेरा हमेशा point ये रहता है कि you use the word niche. That first of all you have to, because what is happening or what has happened in the world has happened. We cannot go back and become number one in that and then see where we stand today. We have to look into the future, and we know that there are certain areas, for example, cloudification. What we see is, as I think 15-20 years ago, countries who invested in the right way in their power plants, in their power infrastructure, they saw the dividend and they saw progress happening in their environment. They didn't see blackouts happening. As I see it in future, every country would need so much of compute when we go driverless, when we fly drones and this and that, and when we convert every single government department do by necessity या मजबूरी या किसी भी तरीके से, when we go all digital, no matter how much compute we have, resources we have, they will not be enough. So one of the most important thing that we will need in the future is is compute.
Compute power.
And usme cloud plays a very important role. And in the region as well, we are seeing a lot of changes happening where we saw first organization going for their own cloud. Then everybody realized that, oh, everybody has again built silos, and then let's converge them together. And then we are seeing now national level cloud initiatives being run by the governments because they understand this, that it has to be done, something has to be done at national level as well, no matter how many cloud players are sitting in your environment. So that means there will be a requirement in the future. So first of all, for ourselves as well, as we move into a hyper cloudification environment, we have to look at what are our own needs. When we start meeting our own requirements, we will start learning how to serve others as well.
True.
Because you cannot put something there and learn how to serve others. You have to first know yourself. The companies who were born in cloud, the companies like we talk about big names, they started from somewhere. They started for solving their own problems or their own local government's problems or country's problems, and then they came out. So first of all, we have to do it ourselves as well. So we have to have a proper roadmap of that. And secondly, yes, we can and we should become a cloud hub here, serve as the region around us. आपका जो ऊपर आप उज़्बेकिस्तान, ताजिकिस्तान और सारा रीजन चले जाएं, आप उसको सर्व कर सकते हैं. लैंडलॉक कंट्रीज़ हैं, आप चाइना के साथ बैठे हुए हैं, आप मिडिल ईस्ट से कनेक्टेड हैं, आप कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं. आप ट्रांस एशिया फाइबर और जो आपकी जो ऑप्टिकल फाइबर मरीन फाइबर आ रही है, आप उसको कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं. आप लेटेंसी के ऊपर यू कैन हैव अ प्ले ऑन द लेटेंसी between all these, because in future
और यही ना कि देखो बहुत से लोग नहीं समझते लेटेंसी इज सो इम्पॉर्टेंट कि मेरे बेटे का Xbox 180 मिलीसेकंड की लेटेंसी से ऊपर नहीं चलता.
फ्यूचर प्ले इज लेटेंसी. अगर हम 5G की बात करें तो हम बैंडविड्थ की बात कर ही नहीं रहे,
लेटेंसी.
हम तो लेटेंसी की बात कर रहे हैं. हम 556 की बात कर रहे हैं तो Wi-Fi 6 में हम बैंडविड्थ तो है. यस, यू आर जंपिंग फ्रॉम 1.8 or whatever to 10 Gbps through single AP, but the main thing is if you want to run robots in a hotel environment or in a factory, you need ultra low latency to do that. जैसे I always say on the forums that talking about these things like driverless cars, drones, robots, all these things, it's cool, but you need to have the new infrastructure. You had the connectivity infrastructure which brought digital age. Now you're going towards intelligent era. Intelligent era में latency has a big play. Or for example, I was part of I was attending a conference where they were demonstrating a teacher, a surgeon teacher, doing surgery and teaching students, and they were becoming all part of a session.
Imagine having
exactly.
90 milliseconds.
Now yes,
right?
Now imagine all of them moving their scalps and stuff at a different latency. It's all messed up.
Yeah.
Now, but we are still living in in times where our kids go online and they struggle with basic video conferencing.
Yeah.
So that means there's a big gap. That big gap has to be filled by someone. So again, if we know the technology, if we keep watching it happening here and there all around us, and we don't become one of the key players in AI, in these ultra low latency applications and use cases, so I think we will miss the train again. So we have to focus on this.
I want to add towards the cloud. I think because it's close to the heart, and it's close to the heart of the Oracle as well.
I was about to get there.
So I think the crux of this data center we talk about, I think let's change the terminology towards it. We want to host data because the compute is basically not only computing, artificial intelligence, modeling and everything, but it's all the data is holding towards it. And understanding this data and hosting in Pakistan, I think is inevitable. Cloud is not something a choice anymore, because you cannot really buy enough compute, you cannot buy enough bandwidth to your own self, you cannot build your own data center, cooling and everything.
As a single entity,
as an individual silos.
Do that.
It has to go. There's no debate about it. What is the debate about it? कि वो data governance के laws हैं.
Well, let me just put one point there, just to yes, you can still do it, but you'll be so cost inefficient that there is no point of doing it, right?
Yes.
So you can't compete if you continue to do this. You can continue to put a data center for every single organization. You will be out of the market.
Absolutely,
right?
you cannot. You can't because the cost so high, maintenance so high, and of course, would you? हम कहते हैं ना जब when we say data is the most precious resource, but it's spread so thin, you cannot really consolidate. You cannot get any benefit out of it. The data center has this ability towards it. So when the data consolidation comes into it, you need to start thinking it. And Faisal said very rightly, people will come when we're utilizing ourselves. Can we do this ourselves? Is our government can go on, whether it's a government data center, whether this is a public-private partnership data center, can our organizations start going to the data to the cloud as well? I think adoption of cloud in our country has to done before we can tell people, look, we are sitting in the most critical route. We are the most viable place to host it, and we have a strong laws and regulatory environment available to us. We have a strong infrastructure available to us, and you have everything 9 yards, you're looking towards it. Nobody else can compete with us. Let me tell you, same thing, we are in a very vital place of an aviation routing.
True.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Pakistan is very strategic place for many
Oh
things.
yes, and we saw that.
So we saw that.
that during
Karachi
the, yes, Karachi used to be, right?
We have not been able to
Yeah.
capitalize it.
Yeah.
You know, we are the most vital aviation route,
Yeah.
and a similar situation, we are the most vital routing for the data center or cloud data center or cloud centers in Pakistan. I think this time we learn, and we see we build, and we build environment around it, and I think we have a win-win situation.
So to start with, custom duty कम करे, utility में relaxation दें, land दें लोगों को,
Regulatory environment
strong करे, IP rights का ख्याल करे,
Absolutely.
litigation environment.
Exactly, arbitration
When
rights का
people
issue.
will put their
Absolutely.
data on your
Yeah,
cloud, it's not about technology,
Yeah,
it's about their trust.
Absolutely.
That even if something goes wrong, they can have a proper litigation environment to rely on. And I have seen
Yeah.
a lot of CIOs having a conversation on why they chose this particular cloud or this particular country over that particular country. It's a very important concern.
So interestingly, the cloud concept is that when the cloud was basically, your data center was coming up, people keep the money in Switzerland and people build data center in Ireland because the GMT time, because 5 hour plus minus
and
in the
their
world
double taxation treaties.
and double taxation, the best thing is the weather.
Yes.
The low energy required for the
Yes,
cooling
true,
purposes.
true.
So let's put a data center or call center in Skardu because the direct flights are there too.
Exactly.
And when we say low cost of the cloud or cost of compute, this is what is actually
Yeah, low
built
cooling
on-
environment.
under it.
So we're closing on a very important point, compute power. And how important compute power can be for a government, for a nation. Think about it from that perspective. Let's say this is 1956 and you are a nuclear scientist and you work in a university lab. Somebody comes and tell you in 20 years time you won't be able to procure any equipment or any material for setting up your basic, even your basic experiments. You would laugh them off. You would say this is not going to happen. But as soon as the militarization and the weaponization of the technology started growing, you started seeing the curves coming in, and all of a sudden people who could not build, as you said, power infrastructure in time or the technology in time were the companies, the countries and the companies were cut off from that process. And we had blackouts, right? So the point is, if we do not build compute power in time, who knows, 10 years from here, we will not be allowed to build it any further.
Yes, it can happen, and and also it can happen that the requirement of compute power becomes so immense that you cannot then conduct a basic IT operation as well.
True.
What has happened now with electricity is that it's not that our consumption has increased, it's also that everything we utilize, even single house, the kind of electricity a single house is utilizing is equal to maybe a village of 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
So this is what and when now we are talking about, not only when we say cloud in a classical term, a data center and a cloud hosted there, we're talking about boundless computing environment. And when I in a lot of my keynotes, I say that it's not, a cloud does not mean one data center I'm telling this to enterprises. Your cloud does not mean one data center, active DR and a DR and a DR. You are entering into a boundless computing environment. You do not know where your compute will be.
Come from, yes.
And for example, if they, I was giving example of a driverless car. For example, earlier you would set up a university's physics department. You would say we want to put maybe 20 teraflops of compute power here, or 28 or 40. Now a car would have that much compute in a pizza-sized box and consuming maybe 300 watts at the back end. Now it's a data center on the road.
On the road, yeah,
you know,
on the
it
road,
has
yeah.
to collaborate with something as powerful at the back, and everything will start becoming like that. And we are already we were at GITEX, we were displaying 1 gigahertz. 1 Gbps connectivity to every single room through transparent or invisible fiber. So this is where the world is heading to. So that is not only 1 Gbps to every single room. That means something will happen to the compute as well in that house as well. So this is the kind of things we are talking about. And so I think that is what we have to get ready for. And that's why hyper cloudification, boundless computing environment, and when you say compute, it means everything, data, all those things. So we have to go in that direction.
So we are closing on the note that the buzzwords that a lot of people consider them are not buzzword anymore. What has happened over the last 1 month, the announcement of Meta, all of a sudden the physical and the virtual worlds are colliding, and it is happening faster than we can imagine. So blockchain, we will be using it very, very quickly. I believe a lot of you would be using it by next year, in terms of payments on WhatsApp, in terms of payments on other platforms. You probably would have an avatar in about 2 years' time, or about 1 year time from today. You probably have an avatar of yourself in a metaverse, or in, you know,
Digital twin, we call it.
Digital twin,
right?
yes. It's being realized now.
So, and you'll be probably having an edge cloud node sitting somewhere 10 kilometers from your house, and everybody should be having that. So these buzzwords, they used to look like buzzwords 6 months ago, or 2 months, even 2 months ago. All of a sudden, they are all real. So closing on this note, we gotta move on. We gotta catch up. We gotta do everything what we can do to make this happen. Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Nadeem Saab.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Beautiful place again.
Absolutely.